old woman committed suicide following an argument with her children over land. Joyce Burudi's family says that their mother disappeared from home after a land draw only for her body to be found in a 15-foot well.
Na kabla ya kutoweka alikuwa ameandika barua fulani, akawacha hiyo barua kwenye meza ya jikoni, ikaonekana kwamba kidogo alikuwa na kitu kama hasira.
Finally, Northeastern Regional Commissioner Nicodemus Ndalana has warned that the government will not hesitate to hit back at elements threatening Kenya's sovereignty.
Na mimi vile ningesema na nitasema na Kizungu, ile kitu walifanya is unacceptable. Hatutakubali watu wetu wapigwe wakifanya kazi ambao wamekuja kufanya hapa.
Ndalana's warning comes just a day after an attack that destroyed a part of a building in the town was launched from neighboring Somalia on Wednesday. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Let's now talk about financial matters. And Kenya's budget shortfall is expected to worsen this fiscal year, creating more headaches to stretched government revenues. According to the supplementary budget tabled in the National Assembly yesterday, Treasury is facing a budget shortfall amounting to 836 billion shillings 2 months before the end of the fiscal year 2019-2020. The report further says ordinary revenues are lagging behind by a whopping 132 billion shillings.
Despite Treasury's medium-term budget deficit target of 5.4%, the shortfall continues to be a moving target. In the current fiscal year, Treasury was to trim the deficit to 5.9%, but this now appears to be off target. According to the second supplementary budget tabled in Parliament on Wednesday, Treasury is facing a deficit of 836 billion shillings as revenue slips due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. With just 2 months before the end of the fiscal year 2019-2020, Kenya Revenue Authority is staring at 132 billion shillings loss in ordinary revenue. The report has reallocated more than 51 billion shillings in an effort to cushion the public from the impact of the coronavirus. Parliament recommends that 10 billion shillings be transferred to cushion the vulnerable in the society through the Inua Jamii safety net.
We are aware that very few of us, very few Kenyans are in formal employment, and therefore those who are going to benefit are largely not so much, Mr. Speaker, but it is going to improve their purchasing power.
3 billion shillings will go towards the construction of a 300-bed isolation facility at the Kenyatta University Referral Hospital, while 600 million shillings has been set aside to compensate health personnel who are offering specialized treatment to coronavirus patients. The Kenyatta National Hospital will also receive 140 million shillings to set up a care center for medical personnel who fall sick attending to COVID-19 patients.
We would seek to get whatever we can get from people who are in employment and earning to help those who are either out of employment or vulnerable. They have nothing at all.
The funds have been slashed from the National Assembly vote at 2.2 billion shillings, the Parliamentary Joint Services vote of 750 million shillings, while the Senate vote was reduced by 274 million shillings to go towards the COVID-19 fund.
We must use our emergency fund in the CDF. Our women reps should use the emergency fund. We must look for those very vulnerable members of our society.
The legislators, however, rejected Treasury's proposal to slash 10 billion shillings from the National Government Constituency Development Fund, saying constituencies have almost exhausted their allocations. The process of concluding the approved estimates is now expected to end next week during consideration and approval of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2020.
Well, I told you that we want to cross over the Atlantic Ocean and go to the United States and talk about how the coronavirus pandemic is impacting the communities there and how it has disrupted business there. And also this coming at a time when, Kenya and the United States, they signed intentions to negotiate a bilateral free trade agreement. And actually, President Donald Trump forwarded the same documents to Congress. And so the issue is under consideration by the Congress. And then the COVID-19 happened. It's also good to note that the United States is Kenya's top source market for tourists. And in the year 2019, more than 245,000 visitors came from the United States. We want to discuss these, how the pandemic is likely to impact business between the two countries. And joining us now is Kia Simmons and Tiffany Simmons. Kia actually is from, hi guys. Tiffany, for your information, is in Orlando in Florida. And
yes.
And Kia Simmons is in the state of North Carolina in the city of Charlotte. So I want to start with Kia. How has life changed since the coronavirus hit America sometimes in March?
Yes, it has drastically changed our situation here in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mecklenburg County. A lot of people have been affected by the COVID-19. And just to give you some numbers, as of last Saturday, we have 303 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 here in Charlotte. And just to be a bit more specific, out of that 303 confirmed cases, 130 of them are African Americans.
And North Carolina is one of the states, where movement of people has been curtailed in a bid to spread the coronavirus. How has business been affected by this partial lockdown?
Sure. Just like in Kenya, Kenya is basically ran by the small businesses. That is the same here in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of the small business owners are suffering because they're unable to open their businesses and they're unable to sustain themselves because of lack of money. And so a lot of businesses are also saying that when they do reopen, they're not going to be able to rehire a lot of their employees that they once had before. So a lot of people are being affected here in Mecklenburg County. In fact, the state is talking about reopening businesses so that they can open for 1 to 2 hours a day.
Very well. Tiffany, Florida has started to ease some restrictions and people have started to go to the beaches. Tell me this, how is life slowly coming back to some sort of normalcy after such a long stretch of a partial lockdown?
Yes, we are currently still on lockdown until April 30th, per the governor. But he has opened up the beaches. They opened up in Jacksonville the 18th. And Tuesday, they opened up a few more beaches in Sarasota. So I think we have a number of 12 beaches open now. And they're allowing five and below, groups of 5 and below to go there. They're not allowed to sunbathe and sit still, but you are allowed to exercise and get some, you're allowed to surf also. So activities only, not just sitting and standing. And they close it between the lunch hour of 2 to 3. Then they open it back up until basically sunset. And then we're allowed to come back in the morning. So they're just kind of letting us out the house slowly. Our businesses are still not open. We only have essential businesses open in Florida.
Mm-hmm. I mean, both of you are business and travel as well as tourism consultants. And I know in the past you have been trying to create an empire of African Americans, who are coming back to Africa seeking business opportunities. and I want to start with you, Tiffany. How has this been impacted by the virus?
The tourism business, well, it's at a standstill because we can't move out of the United States. However, in the background, African Americans are fed up how we're being treated, and they're putting their dotting their I's and crossing their T's to see how they can get relocation benefits in Africa, whether it be Kenya or any other countries that are accepting them. They're looking for land. They're looking for the process to relocate and how they can go from investments and stuff like that. They're ready to go. So once this lifts, I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise because it's giving them time to get organized.
Kia, before the pandemic, you were planning to bring a delegation of African Americans to Kenya, and then the pandemic happened and these had to be cancelled. How soon do you think you're likely to get back to business?
Well, for Worldviews, we are trying to get back to business as soon as possible, which is why we're here. We wanted to share the information so that you all are abreast of what's going on here in the States. But Worldviews plan to be in Kenya in October. As soon as Kenya allows us to return, we will be back in Kenya October the 3rd through the 19th with about 25 guests. And we do have people still right now during the COVID pandemic signing up for our Kenya trip, excited to come to Kenya. And we even have a client on this trip that is ready to relocate in December of this year to Kenya. So we will be assisting her with that. So we're super excited. Nothing has changed Worldviews.
2019 was considered the year of return. Well, a lot of African Americans had been planning to relocate back to the motherland, that is Africa. Tiffany, so far, how many people have decided to relocate to Africa, and how many more are willing?
How many more people are deciding to relocate?
Yeah.
Those numbers, well, I do know that it's 80% higher than 10 years ago. So it is a big rush right now in the culture and movement and travel and relocation for the African American community in travel and relocating. So we are in a climb, we're at our peak. We are definitely in the spirit and the moment to move and relocate. We need COVID to let us go so we can prove those numbers, basically. I think Ghana actually, how much did they bring in just for the year of the return with travel? It was $1.3 billion that they brought in just for the year 2018.
Last year, 2019, for the year of return, Ghana brought in $1.3 million just off of the African American diaspora. So that proves to us that the African American is ready to relocate, travel, and we find it important to come back to the continent because it is our birthright.
And when you engage, with your clients back there in North Carolina, Kia, what do they think about the measures, that Kenya has put in place to stop the spread of coronavirus?
I tell you what, Kenya is doing 100% better than the United States of America. I will put that out there. Every time we have so many Kenyan friends, and so we get all of the statistics throughout the week sent to us, and then we pass it on to our business partner. Shout out to Phil Scott of the African American News Channel, so that he can disseminate that information. But people here in Charlotte and the whole of the United States, as far as the African American is concerned, is super proud of what Kenya and how Kenya has handled it. I was recently in Kenya about 3.5 weeks ago, right before you guys shut your borders. Kenya Airways, kind of told us, hey, you got to go. When we came in, or when I came into the country, you guys were already screening us. And when I left the country, you screened us. And unfortunately, when I returned back to the United States, they had no screening at JFK Airport. And JFK is one of the yes, I'm telling the truth. I literally took a video of the airport so that I can show everybody that they had no screening. no pictures or no signs talking about coronavirus. In fact, when I went through the passport control, the woman who stamped my passport literally did not have on a gloves or a mask and just simply said, "Welcome home."
That sounds pretty much unbelievable there. Is it the same thing is the same thing happening in Florida, Tiffany?
Well, I won't say the same thing is happening in Florida because we're more of a tourist capital. They shut down Disney World, and Disney was one of the first things to shut down. So that's a major airport, MCO. They definitely have their COVID-19 protection up. We have the mask, the gloves. They even change them out every 12 hours from what I understand. So we're doing better. I can't say that they were that secure when Kia was traveling, but as of now, we're definitely locked down. They've pretty much ground all of our flights. I think we're at 60% ground. So not much, and we're not flying international at all. So we're only flying domestic.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, everybody's looking at America and they're like, oh, goodness grief. I mean, how did the U.S. get to this point to become the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic? I mean, with close to 50,000 deaths. I mean, this is quite scary. What are folks saying down there in Florida, where they all like to make merry and live a free life?
Well, see, in Florida or even in America, if we can hone in on the African-American community, it's 1 out of 3 people are dying. So 1 out of 3 of us, meaning it's 3 of us on there speaking right now, 1 of us would get it and they're dying from it is the thing. Not that they're just getting it and they're being cured from it. We're dying from it. And that's what we have to hone in Florida and understand that the widespread and the death toll, not who's getting it and who's recovering. So I'm staying in the house. I have not went to the beaches. I've only tuned into them on the news. We're staying protected down here. Disney still has not opened up. They were one of the first to close last month, and they're still not. And they also are still paying their employees, which is an awesome thing, which a lot of people are not, which the small businesses can't. The loans are gone. The PPP, Paycheck Protection Program is depleted. So the small businesses, they're saying, oh, go to the loans. They have these loans. They just pumped, what was it, Kia, $4.2 trillion into it? No, the small business, it's depleted. It's gone. And the large businesses, or they consider themselves small businesses. Who is it? Ruth Chris and Shake Shack.
Yep.
They have 2, Shake Shack and Ruth Chris are owned by the same subsidiary. So, but they filed 2 different ones. So they were able to get the max of $20 million under 2, one lump sum. So then you have little small businesses like us and it's depleted. But these people just had a bailout. What was that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Yeah. So don't get me started on small really businesses and how we're operating.
Tiffany, I mean, I just want you to hold on there. Kia, tell me this. I mean, she has talked about, the deaths of African Americans. And according to statistics, about almost 55% of deaths in the U.S. are African Americans. What are they doing wrong that the white Americans are doing right?
Well, I have to hone on that. I can't say that we are doing anything particularly wrong, but we have to deal with the history of this country when we're dealing with the black and brown community here. Most of us do not have efficient health care. And if you are poor, it is even worse. It doesn't matter what color or creed or race you are. If you are poor, you do not have access to certain health care. But when we're talking about the black and brown community here, historically, most Black Americans are skeptical about the healthcare system here because of the history of experimental programs that America has experimented on us in the past. And typically when you go to the hospital, you may go to the hospital and say your foot hurt and you leave and you have cancer. And so these are factual facts that most African Americans suffer from when they go to the doctor. Another thing is that you're dealing with poverty, and most African Americans are not educated about the underlying diseases that may be pre-existing that make them not immune to the COVID-19. So
susceptible.
but acceptable to the COVID-19. So you have a lot of us who live in intergenerational households.
Yeah.
So you have youth living with the elders, and they may not show symptoms, but they are affecting the people in the household. And so you see that across the border when you're dealing with most Black and brown people here in America.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at the Bureau of Employment in the U.S., they're saying that millions of Americans, are likely to lose their jobs because of the coronavirus. How would these impact your business of bringing African Americans back to Africa, Tiffany?
Okay, so that has affected millions of Americans. Just this week alone, it affected 4.4 million people filed for unemployment. So it has affected them. Now, how's it affecting us? It's not really affecting us because we've had that lamb in the bush. Our customers are actually more eager. We were scared and we thought that we were going to be affected, I'm going to be honest. But this actually motivated people, not just for tourism, but they want to know about relocating, investing, business opportunities abroad. So it actually ignited a fire up under a lot of people for our industry, and is actually giving us new ideas to find different venues and avenues to bring them home.
Mm-hmm. Tiffany, I mean, here, Africa, when you look at Africa, the number of infection, is pretty much low. A lot of people are saying that this is because Africa has not upskilled its testing or mass testing skills. Are folks down there afraid of coming to Africa because they actually cannot tell how the situation is on the ground?
No, not at all. Just like Tiffany said, a lot of people are actually excited to come to Africa at this moment. We're not being tested here, but you see the deaths. You see the symptoms here. We don't have, I have not seen one testing center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the simple fact that they're saying that most Kenyans are not being tested, and this is why the numbers are low, I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that most Kenyans are not affected. And this is how we see it from the African American perspective here. So most people are eager to come. As I said before, we had at least 3 other people reached us during this pandemic who wants to sign up and go to Kenya on this October trip. So no, I think this is a blessing in the sky for us, and we need to take advantage of it, both us African Americans here in the U.S. and Kenyans there, to partner up and make this work for all of us.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a lot of people who are kind of like they want to leave the U.S. because of what's happening there and go to safer places as we speak, Tiffany?
Yes, definitely, myself included.
Where do you plan to go? Where do you want to go?
I actually, don't be mad at me because I know you're in Nairobi, but I fell in love with Mombasa. I will live in Mombasa. I have created a 5-year plan to move there. I love coastal. So Kia loves Nairobi, though. She's definitely going to.
Yeah, I'll be in Nairobi. I cannot do the heat of Mombasa. I love my family down there, James and Lois Malawasi, but I cannot do Mombasa. I have to do Nairobi.
All right. So you were talking about, a lot of people back in America whose desire is actually to leave the U.S. and go to safer places. Have they shown a lot of interest in coming back to Africa, despite what's happening with the virus?
Yes, the virus doesn't have anything to do with us relocating. I think due to the virus, it's putting us still so we can actually think and actually see what's going on around us. So people have always been excited. They've been more skeptical to leave and go. But now you guys has actually proven that it's safer over there than it is over here. So it's actually helped that. And they're still wanting to relocate. I think it's all about going and seeing. So if we can make that process easier and then relocating, let's talk about Kenya. How is it? What is the process for Americans to relocate to Kenya? Do we have to come over there and start a business? We don't want to just marry people. That's not the way that we want to do it. Is there a 1, 2, 3 step process where Americans can come? Ghana has already gone through it. They've had their big hit. They've welcomed us and then showed us the 1, 2, 3 process. So I would love for all the countries, including Kenya, to get on board and help us do the 1, 2, 3 process. And we will show you exactly how we can move people around from the U.S. to back home, because it's not just a cliche anymore. People want to leave.
Ladies, because I have to let you go, what is your message, to people here who are wondering whether things will ever go back the same again?
My advice to
goes up must come down.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's go with Kia.
Okay, sorry. My advice.
Tiffany, I'm coming back to you. Hold your horses there.
My advice to everyone is that I think, again, this is a blessing in disguise. We should not look at it as a negative. I know that it is affecting everyone economically, but we will take this and take it to another level and use it to our advantage. There are people out here, such as ourselves, that are ready to build partnerships, to create jobs there in Kenya and everywhere else, and here back in the States, opportunities for both sides to benefit. So for us with Worldviews, we see this as a great opportunity for us to build what it is that we've already been saying for thousands of years when we used Pan-Africanism. Let's make Pan-Africanism a reality.
Very well. Tiffany?
Yeah. She took it, man. She said all that she said everything I needed to say. Other than I would say the root of it all to me is health. I would expect everyone to be healthy, be happy, and be hopeful. What goes up must come down. We'll be okay. We'll definitely be okay.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us here. We look forward for the time that life will get back to normal, where people will fly in and out and have fun, go to the beaches and play basketball and all these.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your time back there in the US.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
All the best. Well, Tiffany and Kia, of course, joining us from the US to give us a sneak preview of how the situation is down there. You're watching Business Insight. This is the only place where you can get this kind of stuff. Stay right here. A short break is next.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15